Om Ayahi Varade Devi Raksare Brahmavadini Gayatri Chandasang Mata Brahmajani Namastute. Om Asato Ma Sadagamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrittor Ma Amritangamaya Aviravir Maedi Rudra Jate Dakkhinamukam Te Namang Pahinityam Te Namang Pahinityam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Divine Mother of the Universe, reveal Thyself in our heart and in our midst. We invoke Thy presence amidst us. Thou art the supreme word of the Scriptures. Thou art the embodiment of knowledge and liberation. Thou art the supreme bridge to immortality. Lead us from unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death, disease and suffering to immortality. Manifest Thyself in us through and through, and protect us with Thy compassionate face. Om Peace, peace be unto us, peace be unto all living beings. This morning our subject is why spiritual practices. I'll be reading the translations of the several verses of Shankaracharya's Vivekananda, or the Question of Discrimination. Shankaracharya, the great exponent of spiritual practices. The trouble such that caused by a load on the head can be removed by others, but none but one's own self can put a stop to the pain which is caused by hunger and the like. The patient who takes proper diet and medicine is alone seen to be recovered completely, not through work done by others. The true nature of things is to be known personally through the eye of clear illumination, not through a sage. What the moon exactly is to be known by one's own eyes. Can others make him know it? Who but one's own self can get rid of the bondage caused by the fetters of ignorance, desire, action and the like, even in 100 crores of cycles? Neither by yoga, nor by sankha, nor by work, nor by learning, but by the realization of one's identity with Brahman is liberation possible, and by no other means. The beauty of a guitar's form and the skill of playing on its chords serve merely to please some persons. They do not suffice to confer sovereignty. Loud speech consisting of a shower of words, the skill in expounding scriptures, and the likewise erudition, these merely bring on a little personal enjoyment to the scholar, but are no good for liberation. The study of the scriptures is useless as long as the highest truth is unknown, and it is equally useless when the highest truth has already been known. The scriptures, consisting of many words, are a dense forest which causes the mind to ramble merely. Hence, men of wisdom should earnestly set about knowing the true nature of the self. For one who has been bitten by the serpent of ignorance, the only remedy is the knowledge of Brahman. Of what avail are the Vedas and the scriptures, mantras and medicines to such a one? A disease does not leave off if one simply utter the name of the medicine without taking it. Similarly, without direct realization, one cannot be liberated by the mere utterance of the word Brahman. As a treasure hidden underground requires for its extraction competent instruction, excavation, the removal of stones and such other things lying above it, and finally grasping, but never comes out by being merely called out by the name. So the transparent truth of the self, which is hidden by Maya and its effects, is to be attained through instruction of a knower of Brahman, followed by reflection, meditation and so forth, but not through perverted argumentation. These and the successive verses describe the necessity of the spiritual practices. The scriptures and traditions of the various religions maintain spiritual practices are essential. Not only that, they are indispensable. We are asked to pray, meditate, practice penance, charity, austerity vows. Through these, the truth is to be realized, not through any other means. This is the common theme in all religions. Against this necessity, or the imperative necessity of spiritual practices, three views generally are leveled. The first, by the atheists and agnostics, and the other two by the believers. The first one, the agnostics and atheists, they deny the reality of God or any such entity governing the destiny of the universe and the men and things. They contend that by spiritual practices we experience certain things which are not really real but mind-made visions or ideas. Further, even the idea of God, they argue, is a mere concept of mind. People accustomed to depend or lean upon some person, some figure, some authority, they look for some and conceive the idea of God on which they want to depend, lean upon for their support. A person, when asked to concentrate on a flame of light, as it is in some of the religious disciplines, begins to see flame everywhere. It does not indicate the universe is full of candle flames. A person doing fasting, penances, and other austerities often derive a smug satisfaction of having attained something. Call it illumination, samadhi, God vision. Not necessarily they are experiencing something real. What we see, feel, the objective world, the reality, that is true. Anything else is a form of mysticism. They explain mysticism as mystism. Mist means, you can understand, fog, fogism. These are the arguments of the atheists and the agnostics. The second question, which is one of the two questions of the believers, they maintain that all the scriptures here also, Bible, the Vedas, the Quran, the Buddhistic sutras, they declare reality is self-evident. Theistic religions argue God is self-evident. Self-evident means it is already manifested all the time. Meditation, contemplation is a natural gravitation of the mind. The world is a dynamic manifestation of the supreme reality. Out of joy, creation came into being. Through joy it is sustained. Into joy it returns. Yet, in practical experience, it is not joy but suffering. Very few see God's hand in the universe. Rather, they have more faith in the work of a devil. The question comes, if divinity is our real nature, why we should practice spiritual discipline? Does it not mean then that divinity or purity is something, a new production, a result of penance and practices? If divinity is produced by some penance and practices, then it will never be eternal and real. If our divinity begins on a certain day, at a certain moment, it will also end on a certain day, because anything that has a beginning will have an end. Anything that is produced is not ours. It is borrowed, given, handed down. It will not be lasting. If God is self-evident, real of all real, truth of all truth, why don't we see it? Why don't we feel it? Why we see otherwise? Why we perceive differently? Indeed, the arguments are cogent. If truth is self-evident, why we need to search? So therefore, spiritual practices not necessary. According to them, any form of spiritual practices is programming the mind to think in a certain way. It brings regression, repression, suppression. These thinkers, they contend anything that is controlled, we are asked to control, that thing goes underground or background. Desire for sense gratification, when asked to be controlled, it goes underground. Remaining there causes interminable disturbances in the mind, thwarts the person's thoughts and actions from being natural and spontaneous. Hence, these are repressive, teaching a person from being different from what the person is or what the person naturally thinks and acts. The third argument of the believers, that even if taking for granted God is real, His presence is self-evident, they maintain that the highest knowledge, God vision, communion or union, the result from the grace of God. Man attains God by divine grace. Grace is the ultimate factor. Infinite cannot be attained by finite mind and finite effort. If grace is the ultimate factor, then why we are asked to practice penance, austerities, follow a routine of prayer, meditation? If that is the fact, if self-surrender is the immediate cause of grace, then why we are asked to make self-endeavor? Why we are taught we must make effort? As Shankaracharya just now said, a disease does not leave off unless we take medicine. Merely uttering the name of God does not serve as a medicine. Which is true then? Disease or the health? God's self-evidence, or the world of multiplicity's self-evidence. If self-endeavor is set at naught ultimately, then why we are asked to make endeavor? If it is true our efforts to know God, to catch God, will be useless, why in every page of the scripture we are asked to pray, meditate, make effort? These are the three contentions I presented before you, and they are possible arguments. From the point of view of Hindu scriptures, we will try to understand the contentions and the answers given. Against the first, the atheists and the agnostics, Vedanta maintains, or the traditions of the 6 systems of Hindu philosophers, indeed, God's existence cannot be proved, neither can it be disproved. It is somewhere between yes and no, present and absent. The agnostic who says there is no God, he really does not believe it. Agnostic is a person who says he knows nothing about God, but then if you agree with him, he becomes angry. That is also true. If you agree with him, he becomes angry. So therefore he is haunted by God. Often an atheist thinks of God more than a believer. So it is said the atheist has no holidays. He has to think of God constantly. There is a difference between what we believe and what we really believe. If this is so, that everything is a fantasy, imagination, but then what we know to be true, we see it to be true, perceive to be true, we are not sure of it. That the vivid world, its realities, its changes, its ups and downs, we see, we perceive, we experience, we suffer, we enjoy. But still, we have a doubt. Is this real? We implicitly believe it is not really true. And that is why we make effort to better ourselves, to change the world, to think in terms of progress, scientific development and others for the eradication of the ills of life. This very thing indicates anything which we know really to be true, we do not make effort to alter or change it. The weather is cloudy today. We do not go take fans or moppers to drive the cloud. We know we cannot do it. This is it. But about other facts of life, we do not believe. Spiritual searches, prayer contemplation, practices apply to those people who neither have 100% faith nor have 100% doubt. Twilight of faith and doubt. If it is 100% doubt, the question will not come. So is the 100% faith. We do not need religion. We do not need prayer. So Shankaracharya says, the scriptures are useless for the ignorant. Churches and temples are useless for the ignorant. They are fully convinced there is nothing, or they are incapable of inquiring about it. Quite satisfied with the creature comforts. Again, those who have known the truth, they are not dependent on scriptures, temples, churches. They have transcended them. The scriptures, which is one of the basic pillars of religion, is looked upon by the traditions of Hindu thought as not something most essential and vital. After all, scriptures never produced a saint. We must know it. It's the main of God realization or God vision. They made scriptures. Man made scriptures. Not scriptures made man. So is the temple, churches. They are necessary for those who have not 100% faith, neither in 100% doubt, in between. So is this other practices, spiritual practices, such as prayer, penances. They are for those who have not attained the truth, at the same time not fully in doubt and wickedness. In between, the troubled. All religious search begins from there. Those who are undulating between faith and doubt, between intellectual conviction and direct vision of God. Vedanta maintains God vision or self-knowledge. It is a direct experience of reality. God is self-evident. That is why invisible. We do not see the real. This is another potent argument of the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. We see the sky as blue. We know it is not blue. We see the horizons. If you stand in a meadow, horizons bend. We know it does not bend. For the ignorant, the table or a chair is a table or a chair. For a scientist, it's a mass of electrical charges. For 500 years we believed the sun moves around the earth until Galileo came and proved it otherwise. 19th century science predicted many things. Now we think they are mistaken. How can he say what the science says? That is the only truth. 20th century science is a more on probability than on certainty. 19th century science was certain. Everything is fixed. But today we know that it is probable, more probable than improbable. Scriptures only describe the experiences of a saint and savant. These are the recorded experiences of the travelers in the spiritual path. They only give us hypothetical premise to work to begin with. We need premise in every field, even in scientific research. Even a police, if he has to catch a criminal, he has to make several hypotheses on the basis of the facts and the knowledge. It is not even intellectual conviction, which is the result of reason. Through reason, we get a picture. Through inference. Reason uses inference, analogy. In this case, it is being said, that which is intellectual conviction or perception is not really direct. Intellect, which is a function of the mind, perceives things according to its previous conditioning. All people are born with a blueprint of mind. No two persons perceive the world of joys and sorrows in the same way. Each individual lives in his or her private universe of likes and dislikes, suggestions and fantasies, predilections and mistakes. So our perceptions of real is not really real. We have doubt about it. We do not know. So against the argument that everything is mind-made, Vedanta says, what you perceive to be real, that is also mind-made. You are already programmed. A programmed man is telling another person programmed. It is like the pot is telling the kettle that your back is black. Physician, heal thyself. That becomes the question. Second point it says, indeed, even if we take it as a mind-made concept, true, in the final analysis, the Upanishadic thinkers contend everything is mind-made. That what you are, you think, as a man or a woman, is also you think it so. That your name is such and such, you think it so. Somebody, when you are born, put a tag, your name is this. You began to believe. You began to think. Now you cannot think otherwise. In childhood, somebody said, your name is Lily. Then you became Lily all your life. If anybody told you that you are lotus or rose, you felt uncomfortable. Such is the power. So therefore, that is also suggestion. Life is guided by suggestion, imagination, fantasies. So these things are also our personality concept, that is also mind-made. But not the whole mind. Part of the mind. Another part raises doubt. Is it really so? Hence religion also. These ideas, philosophical concepts and others, they're ideas. Hindu traditions never maintain, particularly non-dualistic traditions of the Upanishads, that books and traditions are final. They never say that philosophies are exhaustive descriptions of God. Philosophy is a guesswork. Guesswork means speculation. When you read Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, Bible, that's a guess or speculation. Is God like this? Another says no, that is that. Argument, counter-argument. Speculations and suggestions. Because idea of God, the infinite reality, cannot be described in words. No book will be able to give us a picture of God. They are not exhaustive descriptions, but faint speculations. If scripture, traditions, that speculations, suggestions, then are these not just for intellectual entertainment? Then what is the value of this? We have already developed a philosophy of life from out of our idiosyncrasies, fantasies. Man is a victim of his own mind. To salvage man, we need a counter-suggestion, counter-concept. Gaudapada in his Mandukya Karika Upanishad commentary on it, it says, from ultimate point of view, we do not need to do anything. Reality is self-evident. The universe is pervaded by reality. God alone exists. All things which are non-God or do not think of God as our fanciful imaginations. Our imaginations do not turn the reality to be otherwise. Our denial and acceptance do not make the reality present or absent. By thinking something other than what is true or real, we only suffer and enjoy. To discover this is the highest knowledge. We need to free ourselves from the attachments to our concepts, imaginations and ideas. Even a saint can be a victim of a concept. If you tell a non-dualist saint, dualist, he may be upset. If you challenge a certain view of God, he may not like it. Such is the power of concept. Since, from ultimate point of view, everything is God, man is ever free, ever divine. There is no bound soul. There is no salvation. But if you think you have a problem, then I have a solution. My solution also is a thought. Since your problem is due to your thought, a thought can be countered by a thought. You cannot fight a wrong imagination with reality. You cannot fight a dream problem with a real solution. In dream, if a person sees nightmare, seeing a burglar entering through the window, you need there a dream policeman. A real cop cannot help to counter this burglar. So therefore you need a dream solution. Our wakeful is also a form of dream. Reality is beyond wakeful dream, dreamless sleep. So from ultimate point of view, through spiritual practices, we only deprogram the mind totally or decondition the mind. The net result of spiritual practice is called Chitta Shuddhi, purification of the mind. Another name of it is deconditioning the mind. It is like the old story. A man used to come from his work, go to a bar and drink after midnight. He would come home after midnight, tipsy. Lately, one of his friends saw him while going to the bar. He was carrying a wooden box in his armpit. The friend asked, "But what is this box for?" He said, "You see, lately when I had been returning home, I was seeing cobras hissing around me all through in the street, and I was scared to death." Then he said, "What is this box for?" He said, "I'm carrying a mongoose in it." Mongoose and cobras are eternal enemies. Now the box had perforation so that the mongoose can breathe. He said, "This mongoose gives me strength to counter the fear of the hissing of the cobras." The friend, while walking, he said, "By the by, the cobras which you see, they are your imaginations. How a live mongoose will fight the imaginary cobras." The drunkard said, "Well, don't go far. This is also imaginary mongoose which will fight the imaginary cobras." The story has a great meaning. A man victim of suggestion, attachment, even neurosis. These are all mental concepts. How to free the person? You plant another suggestion there. With the help of one suggestion, you free the person from another suggestion. Patanjali in his aphorism says, it is called Pratipaksha Bhavana. A thought which is grueling, darkening, harassing, to be contended with another thought. A habit with a counter habit. A physical habit with a counter physical habit. A mental habit with a mental habit. An intellectual habit with an intellectual habit. In one of the Upanishads says, teeth to be controlled by teeth, posture by posture, thought by thought, desire by desire. Each one must have a matching counter dimension. In spiritual practices, this technique is followed. A person is told, suppose a person feels that my name is this. In religion they give a name. That person begins to think, this is my name. Person is asked to sit in a certain way, breathe in a certain way, behave in a certain way. So each thought, action, concept being matched by counter thought, action and perception. Really spiritual practices do not give us anything new. They only take away the obstacle. Truth is self-revealing. Self-revelation is to be known. Even scientific facts are revelation. Newton, the law of gravitation was revealed to Newton. The apples were falling all the time, never went up. But Newton, on a certain frame of mind, discovered that law. Even Einstein's law of relativity revealed. This law was operative in the universe from time immemorial. And it will be operative even when we are not here, until the end of time. Even physical laws, chemical laws, if you mix this with this, it will be this. Knowledge is a discovery. But it has another meaning. Knowledge is a progressive discovery of truth and also progressive realization of ignorance. The more knowledge I have, the more I know that very little I know. The more I grow in knowledge, I discover how foolish, how big foolish I am. The more we know about God, we discover how very little we know. So it is said, Vidya dadati vinayam. Vidya means knowledge. When the knowledge comes, vinayam, humility. An ignorant man is proud. A theologian, he has a very nice framed picture of God. He says, God is 5 feet 3 inches. He cannot be otherwise. He eats this. He sits there. That is his home. You cannot convince him. Even he thinks God belongs to a particular caste. Either he is a Christian or a Hindu or a Buddhist. He also thinks in terms of what he is. So Swami Vivekananda says, therefore, if God made man, man also makes God. In his journey toward the realm of reality, as he progresses, his ideas of God also begin to change. In the beginning, God is far. Our prayers are loud. Relationship between God and his seeker, formal. Loud prayer. Because unless we are loud, he may not be able to hear. Really it is, we talk loud to drown our own noises. Technique of religion. Bells, light, singing, so that our inner noises will be drowned. An average person, when there is a lot of noise, they feel concentration. That is also true. Because with the support of external noise, he gets a little breathing space from his internal noise. An average person in silence will feel terrible, because all the inner noises will overwhelm the person. This is a phenomenon. An average person in company of other concentrated people will feel strong. A sense of borrowed strength comes. As bad things are infectious, good things are more infectious and contagious. So here it is happening. The spiritual techniques of different religions and rituals, with that, a person is given support. As he progresses from verbal, symbol of God, and practices, comes to the symbol of ideas and thoughts. First stage is God is far away, in heaven. Even we have pictures of God. Various Shiva, Vishnu, Hindu pictures. Christian pictures are there, floating in the air. The painter painted, we believe that is God. In the second stage, God is conceived as inner controller, near. The more we realize God is indwelling, we do not need to be loud. We do not need to even pray, because before I prayed, as inner controller knows my need. Third stage is, I am He, or that Thou art. Everything is God. Inside, outside. So the progression, as it progresses, the technique of the spiritual practices, philosophies, all these, they begin to change. In the beginning, what I like, God also likes. The food I like, I make the offerings to God. The way I take rest, God also take rest. In many temples up there, you will find these techniques. God is now having breakfast in a temple. He is taking siesta. He is having his evening walk. Entertainment, concert. In Indian temples, evening concerts are there, entertainment. Man can worship God in a human way, with human ingredients, with human emotions. But the more he practices, progresses, the outer contents begin to remain the same, inner meanings change. So it is said, in the first stage, the worship through image and symbols. Second stage, prayer in silence. Third stage, uninterrupted contemplation. Fourth stage, revelation. You see. So knowledge is a revelation. To know, not to do. Knowledge and doing, they are poles asunder. But we are being asked to do penance, contemplation, prayer, self-control. By doing that, really we are undoing. It is undoism. What has been done, you undo it. With the help of one idea, you undo the other idea. All spiritual practices are, really speaking, the imitation of the holy. Saints and sages, by behaving in a certain way, eating certain food, talking in a certain way, they attain to the truth. Thinking in a certain way, we imitate. By imitating, we realize. It is like if a dog wagging its tail out of bad habit, if you control the tail, dog also, maybe in the beginning, tail will wag the dog a little bit, but ultimately it will settle. If thought made the speech and behavior different, you take control of this, behavior will change. Because one is the effect of the other. If you take the effect, the cause also will change. So rituals and ceremonies came from there to give a suggestion. It has contact and connection with the cultural soil of the person. By doing a certain pose, posture, you invoke those thoughts. If you sit down daily in a prayer in a certain place, certain way, each time you do, next time you reinforce the previous thoughts. Here comes the meaning of continuity. Often you will find that why we should continue. Repeat the same. Because by doing that, I am reinforcing my previous habit. a thought which I entertain sitting in a certain way, certain place, certain time. If I repeat next day, all my previous day's efforts become reinforced, stronger and stronger. That is called spiritual practice. Imitation of the holy. Saints living in utter absorption, say, they developed matted hair. Now, matted hair came because of his being unmindful of combing the hair. If I buy a wig of matted hair or cultivate matted hair, that will not make me saint. Because certain things happen because of his unmindfulness of body consciousness. But if I, with the consciousness, imitate, imitation for physical appearance, imitation for knowledge, then I will be able to invoke those thoughts in me. Imitating the behavior and conduct of the holy. That is the sole purpose of spiritual practices. Next question will come. That even if God is there, it is true, we need to practice to make our direct experience, to feel. Direct experience is, I must feel. Simply I know is not enough. It is like, be not simply good, but be good for something. The most important thing. We all say, I am good. You are good for what? You may be good for nothing. So good for something is necessary. So be not simply good, but be good for something tangible. So direct experience to overcome the dependence on scripture, tradition, ritual, even spiritual practices. You do spiritual practices when it has not, so long you do not feel. Anything which you feel spontaneously, you don't call it practice. As you do not call it practice when you are enjoying something or you are absorbed. We do not call practice when we are taking rest. A person taking rest after a whole day's work goes to bed. In the morning he doesn't say that he had to practice a discipline. Last night he had to fall asleep. The idea of discipline makes everything drudgery. That is also true. A person who eats for strength, sings for name, works for development of muscle, reads for knowledge, I think he's a sick man. His every effort driven by necessity. Everything is purposeful. He's doing everything like a slave. To recover the person from that, what you can do? By practicing discipline, you overcome the discipline. That is the idea. Called transcending. By practicing it. Shankaracharya said, knowers of truth, knowers of God, they do not practice discipline. They are spontaneous, ever established in that. Even when they undergo sufferings, like ordinary persons, they experience old age, sorrow, death, disease, but they are above it. They cannot overwhelm. The virtues which he practiced consciously at one time, they hang around his shoulder like a beautiful garland of many flowers. A knower of truth is not good. His goodness itself. He is not pure. His purity itself. We cannot call him holy. His holiness itself. He can't be otherwise. That is his nature. Through spiritual practices, therefore, we first gain a faith, little faith. Faith becomes solidified by intellectual support or conviction. through honest doubt and reasoning, intellectual conviction matures into direct knowledge. That is the cause of salvation. That is cause of liberation. Tell me, what do we gain? The difference between a saint and a sinner. A saint has more faith in his goodness and purity. A sinner has more faith in his sinfulness. Difference is in what you have your faith. A sinful person believes more in his sins than in his virtues. A saint believes more, or he has faith in his goodness. He thinks his prayer, contemplation, charity, austerity, they're not false, they're true. What he does when he is not censored by anybody, that is his real nature. So it is a religion. True, real religion is what you entertain, what you do when you are not pressurized by anybody or anything, and when you are alone. So often what we do, what we say, what we think, we are being pressurized by the society, by the people, the friends, by the tradition, by the upbringing, by my education. When nobody is there to censor me, nobody is there to see me, nobody is there to tell me, what do I do? That is my real nature. To discover that, we must create a situation and to go to reach there. That is called direct perception. The third question, that if everything depends upon grace, why spiritual practice? Answer being given. Spiritual practice is necessary, or self-endeavor is necessary in order to know its limitation. You need to know self-endeavor does not produce anything. If I tell you there is nothing, you are all established in God, go home. You will say either Swami does not know anything or he is talking foolish things. He like a person who went to India, visited many temples, finally came to an Himalayan temple and stayed there with a guru. Every day the person will ask, when shall I attend, what shall I do? One day the person said, you fast 7 days, then you go take a dip in the Ganges, which is about 500 feet drop, then you walk by, there is called prostration walking, one of the religious practices. You lie down, get up, you lie down, cover the distance. For example, from here you want to go to downtown, in the sidewalk, in the Fifth Avenue you start. Prostrate, get up, prostrate. It's very more severe than jogging. After that, you eat half a glass of Ganges water mixed with little Ganges arts and a long prescription. And disciple asked, then what will happen? Then you will feel as if you have attained self-knowledge. This is, by doing that, we feel something we have done. So doing is necessary in order to reach a stage where there is no doing or not doing. Second point is being said, that you must make the knowledge your own. You must feel it. You cannot live all your life depending on Vedas and Bible, prophets and messengers. Prophet says, what you say, you must have something. You cannot live all your life depending on books and temples. So Swami Vivekananda says, it is good to be born in a church or a temple, but we must learn to die beyond the church. Otherwise, it is good that we begin our schooling in the first grade in a particular school. But if you spend our whole life in that grade school, that will not be good. So therefore, schooling is necessary. We will overcome this schooling. Creeds, symbols, practices, theories, they are necessary in the beginning. But we overcome them at a certain stage. So to make the experience our own, spiritual practice is necessary. Swami Brahmananda, Sri Ramakrishna's disciple, used to practice intense spiritual discipline. One day, Vijaya Krishna Goswami, a saintly person who also used to come to Sri Ramakrishna, in fact he has a large following now, he said, "Why you people all do so much severe austerities and penances? I know the Master gave everything to you." Swami Brahmananda said, "Sir, true, he gave, but I am practicing to make that my own. A person enjoys a fortune more which he has earned with his own effort than what he inherited from his forefathers. Second, timing. It prepares the mind, spiritual practices. Body, mind prepare. A direct realization of truth is very devastating. It shatters all imaginations, fantasies, make-believes. These are called defenses of the ignorant. Truth comes in the form of a conqueror. Or again, the highest truth has been called like a river. If you take a dip, it will destroy everything. Third, it has been called like a flaming fire. It will burn all that is false in you. False in the sense, false attachment, belief. If this burning is done beforehand, a person will collapse. It is like an electrical wire which is for 220 volt. If you all of a sudden pass 10,000 volt there, it will explode. Our present body and mind, created in a certain way to bear the impact of certain velocities of emotions. If all of a sudden this knowledge comes, the person will go crazy, break down to pieces. This is exactly what happened. One of our Swamis, in fact, Swami Nikhilanda, the founder of this center, he asked one of Sri Ramakrishna's disciples, "Sir, you can give me knowledge." He was very fond of, and Swami Saradananda, who was a great sage. He said, "Sir, you can, if you will, you can transform me. You can give your blessings. Why you ask me to undergo all these severe disciplines?" He said, "True. You see, if I give this to you right now, either you'll go crazy or you will drop dead." So we develop the capacity of the mind, body, to bear the impact of that flaming fire. Knowledge comes in two forms, fire and light. Fire burns, light illumines. We only think of the light. People say light of knowledge. Light of knowledge comes. They never say fire of knowledge. They avoid fire. You cannot have light without fire. So therefore, spiritual practices prepare our psychophysical system, mind, to bear the impact of the final illumination. Our body, mind, we change body. The physical body is also changed. Mind also changes, undergoes. We get a divine mind, divine body to actualize the divine. This worldly body is not ready and not fit for the divine. In the Bible also Jesus says that which is world's belongs to the world. A mortal can never be immortal. An impure person can never be pure. An ignorant person can never be a knower of God. Christ says, one who has descended from heaven, he alone ascends to heaven. That means divinity is our real nature. We descended, means we had a lapse. We do not become divine, we discover the divinity. So spiritual practice is necessary to make the spiritual experiences and knowledge as we advance our own. What prophet says, messengers say, the books say, I also say. Second, to enjoy it. You enjoy what you have earned. More enjoyment. When you reach the final goal, there is no enjoyment. When you have not discovered anything, there is no enjoyment. Sorrow in utter ignorance. End of all experiences when you reach the final. Enjoyment is traveling the journey. Many people think enjoyment is only when one reaches God, paradise. Actually, it is not so. In God, there is no novelty. Novelty is there when God and little world mixed. Ornament is there when pure gold and little alloy is there. In pure gold, there is no ornament, it's possible. So this journey itself is enjoyable, from ignorance to reality. Third question is, what are the spiritual practices? Spiritual practices are not merely prayer, contemplation, uttering a single thing or phrase. Actual spiritual practices is practice of dispassion, self-control, Shankaracharya says. Discrimination, dispassion, self-control and yearning. Without that, other things are secondary. Sitting down with beads, uttering like a parrot certain things, then getting up, little military drill. The real thing is that, which Shankaracharya describes 4 basic practices. Without that, a person has no right even to enter into this realm. Nitta nitta vastu viveko, which Shankaracharya says, discrimination. A person who cannot discriminate which is true and false, holy, unholy, what the person will do? A person who does not have dispassion, disillusionment with the world and worldly values, thinks this is all. Religion is not for that person. Self-control is not there. Upanishads say that any effort to control the lower self is equal to millions of prayer, millions of meditation, million rounds of uttering the sacred word. Finally, desire, yearning for God. To long for God. Longing is the precursor of final knowledge. Longing means when we long for God, God longs for me. That is also true. Unless God longs for me, I cannot long for God. I want to worship God. God also has to want my worship. Unless God wants, I won't feel like doing it. That is grace. I feel that God wants me. I am able to go to the prayer room every day because my God wants me to see me daily in my prayer room. The day He will not like it, I won't have any inclination to go. This very desire is a perception of grace. So as we proceed, we realize that everything came from Him. He gave strength, He gave energy, enthusiasm, and He proceeded, took me by the path. He gave discrimination, dispassion. Dispassion cannot come unless there is love of God. Finally, the spiritual practices have 2 aspects, theoretical, practical, inner and outer. For most people, religion ends with prayer room. That's a prayer room religion. In prayer room, they see God, they feel good, they see angels. As soon as they come out of the prayer room, they see devil. It is like it. Many people will cross the ocean to see God in a certain Himalayan temple, but they can't see God in the nearest person. That is one-sided. For those, religion is more a consolatory imagination, no better than another crutch. If you see a person, he claims, he prays, he meditates, but he doesn't feel for others. the nearest God, the living God, that person's religion is a hoax, is a psychological aberration. It will downgrade him rather than free him. Upanishadic religion is think and apply. Your actions should be more a spiritual practice. Spiritual practice is not just simply telling beads or sitting in a certain time. You sit in a certain time in silence to gather. That you have gathered is proved. How long and how far you can carry that atmosphere in everyday world. That is your test. When you have done that, that has a great feedback return. It's called practical religion, application. You believe in your conviction when you have been able to apply that in everyday life. If you have not applied, it is all our wishful thinking. It does not free us. It only creates more irritation and drudgery. Spiritual practice should be two ways. In thinking, inside, its application outside. Knowledge and experience. The two combined takes us to the highest truth. Thank you. Om Jananing Sharadang Deving Ramakrishnan Jagadgurung Vadapadme Tayo Sritta Pranamami Muhurt Muhurt. We bow down to Mother Sarada and the great Master Sri Ramakrishna. We take refuge at their feet and bow down to them over and over again. Om, peace, peace be unto us and to all living beings.